Chapter 13. 9 of 10. It was the 1st of July, 1972, and classes wouldn't begin until September. I was anxious to leave, so I contacted the school to see if I could arrive early. They put me in touch with a family who agreed to house me temporarily until a more suitable arrangement could be found. I flew to Wisconsin and stayed with them for less than 2 weeks before moving on. It was short-lived, but long enough to change my life. The family were devout, caring Christians. They were interested in my walk with the Lord and shared theirs as well. They looked to be an average couple, but had a richer spiritual life than I had experienced before. At a few of the meals, I noticed the wife wasn't eating. When I asked her about it, she told me she was fasting, devoting the time she would normally feed her body to feeding her soul and praying for others. I was eager to talk with my hosts about spiritual matters and biblical principles. Within 2 weeks, I left my temporary host family and moved in with Elaine and Ralph Scott and their children, Bob and Mary. They were such a pleasant family. Ralph treated Elaine with respect, which I seldom observed my father doing in our home. I enjoyed living there very much. They let me use their car until I could purchase one for myself. Without a car, it was impossible to find work or even commit to a job. I prayed God would provide both. I had been living with the Scotts for less than 2 weeks when I received a letter from Stan. Inside was a large check from the last presentation I had done selling Kirby's. I could tell Stan was excited as he wrote, 10 interviews, 10 sales. It was obvious God orchestrated this final sale for a reason. The amount was just enough to buy a car from the Scots' neighbors. I was then able to find a job working for Dr. Hines, a Christian podiatrist. Dr. Hines was easygoing and comical. I will never forget the first joke he told me. He drew a picture of an eye and taped it to the wall and announced, "It's a walleye." His joke was lost on me as I had no idea what a walleye was. By the time he explained it was the name of a fish found in the Mississippi River, the humor was gone. My first duty as his assistant was to schedule appointments. I was good at it. I had patients coming in every 15 minutes. Every chair was filled and there were patients lined up against the walls. I had no idea his average appointment was at least 30 minutes long. Still, Dr. Hines didn't appear upset with me. After each patient, he'd peek into the waiting room between the hinges of his office door and whisper, "Are there still more?" He was so good-natured, it made me laugh. I had been in Wisconsin about 6 weeks when I wrote to the family about how homesick I was and how much I missed everyone. The next thing I knew, Stan, his wife Peggy, Mom, and Dad flew out for a visit. I knew Stan instigated the entire thing. There didn't seem to be anything he wouldn't do for me. Dr. Hines took care of Mom's feet, while Peggy and I talked in the waiting room. Apparently, there was a news report of an airplane carrying a casket in its baggage compartment. Somehow the compartment door opened and the casket fell out. Peggy and I laughed and laughed till we cried. I have no idea what was so funny, but just mentioning the casket years later would start us laughing all over again. It was wonderful seeing my family. Nothing could have lifted my spirits more. Once they left, I borrowed a tent, a sleeping bag, and a fishing pole and drove to the Mississippi River. This was something I'd never done before. I envisioned myself looking back on this trip as a badge of courage. At 5 foot and 89 pounds, I was out to prove I could take care of myself. With all the fishing Stan and I had done, I felt confident it was going to be an excursion to write home about. I pitched my tent, prepared my gear, and waited. I was on the famous Mississippi shore for 3 days. My line never touched the water as I waited for the rain to stop. I was dirty, wet, cold, and miserable. Why would anyone deliberately want to do this? I told myself. You hate camping. Don't ever do it again.